Hello, I want to show you how to overwinter sweet potato vines in zone 6. Come join me in the chaos.
I feel like this always happens in fall, but I guess it happens at other times as well. But in the fall, it's the most frustrating if you're like me and you live somewhere that gets cold, because you know what's going to happen once we get our first decent frost. It's just going to kill all this green. So yeah, you could probably harvest the leaves and make yourself a few salads. But something really nice you can do that you probably already know is if you look at these stems are going to be pretty mature, and you'll notice that they're covered with roots. I mean, look at this. They're trying to make potatoes. I mean, I actually interrupted one right here. This is trying to make a little purple sweet potato, little baby one. But of course, it's probably not going to make it through the winter anyway, so it's good to preserve this. And you'll notice along here, there's tons of these different nodes, different positions where there's a leaf and lots of roots. And so a very easy strategy that you can do is to harvest these portions and either put them in soil if they have sufficient roots like this, or just put them in water. So let me kind of show you how to do that so you can quote unquote overwinter your sweet potatoes. This is basically just going to preserve them indoors so they can survive. But it's a pretty good strategy, because otherwise you're going to have to wait until, winter and start the process of taking a sweet potato and then slipping it out, which usually just involves sticking it in water, which isn't a big deal. But how much further ahead would you be if you just simply harvested some of your sweet potato vines before they go bad, like I'm doing right here, and then just slice them up, and you can either stick them in water and just change the water every other week or so until winter's over, or just stick it right into pots. I've had some people ask me if sweet potatoes are going to, if they're going to grow pot, or if they're going to grow sweet potatoes indoors. It's possible, but probably not. And if you do, they'll be like little pathetic tiny ones. It's not the point. We're not putting these indoors to grow sweet potatoes indoors. It takes a lot of solar energy to produce enough starch to grow a sweet potato. So realistically, you're probably not going to be growing a huge crop indoors unless you have some like high power grow lights. So if you don't have high power grow lights, you're just putting them in the sunny window, you're going to basically keep it alive, almost in stasis, until spring comes around. So here I'm doing this in October, so these things need to survive like 5 months indoors. And so essentially I'm just making an indoor house plant. And honestly, what I'm doing is I'm replacing some of my pothos plants, which are just like a poisonous, they're beautiful, but they're poisonous. And I have little kids, and so that's not the most favorable thing to have indoors, especially since I can have something highly edible like this. I mean, worst case scenario, my daughter starts digging into my sweet potato plants and eats some of the leaves. This is actually a pretty healthy green, so no big deal. Not gonna hurt her. Actually, it would be kind of healthy for her. So in the rare event that does happen, no big deal. So anyway, I'm gonna probably turn this one vine into a dozen houseplants. And let me just kind of show you the way to do this if you've never done this before. Let me make myself comfortable right here. I'm trying to record and chop at the same time. You'll notice there's some pretty good flowers. These things are gorgeous. So if you want pretty flowers, sweet potatoes are the way to do it. Hey, buddy. All right, go over there. Come on, Mud. I'll pet you later. All right. He loves when I pet him, like all dogs. There's a lot of flowers on this. I wouldn't recommend keeping the flowers, even though they're beautiful. It's going to take a lot of attention of the plant away from rooting. It'd probably do okay. So if you really want to, you could probably leave them on there and just pop them in a vase, and then all these little flowers will probably open over the next couple weeks. So not a bad idea. Like if I wanted to cut this, maybe I'll do that as an experiment. Like I can just cut this end off. Maybe I'll keep these nice roots right here. Okay. So for example, that would be one cutting. If I'm going for flowers. And then I like to take off the leaves near the bottom. We don't really need the ones near the bottom since they're going to be underwater. I'll take that bottom flower off. And then I can take this entire stem right here and just stick these bottom few nodes into water. You might be able to do this many leaves into soil. Just realize that this is a lot of leaf area. So if you put this into soil, you're gonna have to keep that soil pretty wet, which might cause some rotting. So the best bet is to put it in water for, you know, maybe a week or two. And then by then you should have enough roots so you can just transfer it right to soil. Look right here. You'll see that there's a little purple bump above the leaf. That's the top. And so down here is the bottom. And you're gonna wanna put the bottom in the soil. So the base of this is actually right here. So I got a couple nodes cleared off there. And this actually branches. So I'm probably gonna cut it right here. And then maybe right above here. And then this right here can be a cutting. It's kind of an ugly cutting. I just really wanted those mature roots. You'd probably be okay just sticking this piece without those roots in water, but that's just kind of a waste. And I'm actually gonna separate these bottom two nodes. I don't feel like I need that many roots for something this big. So that right there is gonna be a pretty strong cutting. This has enough roots that I could probably put this straight into soil if I wanted to. I like to let them harden. So some people put these straight into water, which you can do, that's fine. I do that sometimes. But ones like this that you're planning on putting straight into soil, you can actually just leave in air for, you know, just like a half hour or so. I just want these parts to not rot. And so this right here, it has some type of a latex sap compound that comes out, and that'll cause this to just basically seal itself off. So you can just let that hit it. You can just let air hit that for a few minutes. So that's gonna be a good cutting. This is gonna be a good cutting. Something to note if you didn't already know about sweet potatoes, if you look really close, you'll see air roots forming. They look like little pimples that appear near these nodes. Those will very quickly turn into roots if you put these little cuttings into water, or these, I guess, vines. Put these little vines into water. And where the new growth is gonna come out is like these nodes right here. You can already see some new growth trying to form right here. So I could probably just clear this leaf off. We'll probably get roots forming right here. Roots will pop out right there. Roots will probably pop out right here. Probably do one more. Yeah. Do another right here. And you kind of want to look on this before you get too excited and make sure you have air roots high enough up. So I'll probably use the rest of this for one. Just remove these two leaves. That's probably good. I might get closer to that node. The reason I'm doing it a little closer is I'm going to try to get 3 nodes underwater. And it actually is fine to leave some of this attached cambium, because this is actually going to almost behave like a root because of osmotic pressure, osmosis. Water will actually get absorbed into the stem if this plant starts drying out and those roots don't form fast enough. And so that's a pretty solid cutting. So that can just go into water, and then the rest of this can just be sticking out of the water. So I'm gonna use that for the bottom. Use that for the top. And you can take your time on this. It can be pretty time consuming if you want it to be. So that's my bottom. Get my camera to focus. You're a good watchdog. Oop, you just stepped on it, buddy. He actually loves sweet potato. If I pull these things out and give them to him, he'll eat them. He doesn't dig them up anymore, but when he was a puppy, he used to dig them up and eat them right out of the ground. But I've taught him to not dig up my plants. Just took time. All right, I'll pet you for a minute. Probably gonna have to cut this out because no one wants to watch me pet a dog. Look, Mutt, here comes your puppies. Gotta find some good homes for those guys. Huh. You love your puppies? All right. All right, same thing. I hope this redundancy helps. I mean, you don't have to sit here and watch me do this over and over. I like to include the redundancy though. I'm also a high school teacher, and I've noticed with my students, if I explain it just once, I'll typically have a lot of questions. But I noticed if I explain it 2 or 3 times in slightly different ways, then my number of confused students drops like exponentially. So that's kind of one of my strategies, is just to be really redundant and just explain it at least twice, if not 3 times. So I'm just gonna run this video and keep chopping these up, and you can watch it as long as you want to or as short as you want to, whatever helps you. I think actually that's the last of my useful material. Could probably get one more good one out of here. This one looks like it's having some disease happen. What you doing? Alright, don't be chewing up my experiments. Here, you can have this leaf. Here you go, have this one. Want a leaf? Not interested? Just want to play? Oh, you're adorable. Okay, I guess that's probably going to be my last one out of this branch. So, a bunch of cuttings. So cutting, 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 cutting. Got a bunch of them. All right, I'm gonna put these in cups and let them root out. Probably take a bunch more off camera just so you don't have to watch me do it. And then I'll pick this video up and let you see the results. Oh, little fur ball. Trying to photobomb. All right, I should end this so I can go play with these puppies. They really want to be played with. All right, you can play. All right, let's turn it off. All right, so I put most of the cuttings in this jar, and I put some into little plastic see-through cups. And we'll go ahead and look at those in about a week. All right, so here's some results. It's been about a week in this water, maybe a week and a half, I don't know, kind of lost track. So these types of roots are the roots that are new in the water. So you can tell the difference. Those are water roots. And then you'll notice these slightly darker roots are roots that were in the dirt. But you notice that there's also some of these water roots also forming. So as you transition these to soil, you're gonna want sun, but not direct sun, as they establish themselves in the right type of roots. But they seem to do pretty well in just water, at least forming roots. We'll see how well they transition, but that's the basic idea for, as it's winter time anyway, and then once the frost comes, it's gonna kill these, you might as well take some chunks of them and chop them up and stick them in these cheap plastic cups. Got these little cups at Walmart. I think it was like $3 for a big pack of them. I'm not even sure. But yeah, just stick some of those chunks in water and they'll just root out pretty easily. There you go. All right, look at those roots.